Welcome to this COVID-19 coronavirus briefing. I am honored to serve the citizens of Collier County as the chairman of the Collier County Board of County Commissioners. The purpose of this briefing is to provide an update and information on how we are doing and what to expect in the coming weeks. We are fortunate to have with us for this briefing Florida State Senator Kathleen Passidomo, Collier County Sheriff Kevin Rambosk, and our Deputy Department of Health Director Stephanie Vick. We are practicing social distancing in this briefing, something that all of us are going to have to get used to in the coming weeks. These have been very difficult times for our community, and I'm very proud of our citizens' efforts in adhering to the governor's Safer at Home executive order. By practicing social distancing, we have helped contain the spread of COVID-19 in our community. But remember, the Safer at Home order is still in effect until lifted by the governor. Practicing social distancing, wearing of masks, and other measures will likely be the norm as we reopen Collier County. I want to also sincerely thank our courageous health and emergency services providers who are on the front lines fighting this disease. They risk their health and their lives every day for all of us. Be assured, Collier County government will continue to provide all essential public services with an emphasis on protecting the health and safety of everyone. In the next few days, Collier County will develop a coordinated plan with the City of Naples and the City of Marco Island on the reopening of our beaches. We will form an economic recovery task force led by Commissioner Penny Taylor with members of the business community. The task force will develop a plan to stimulate and restart our economy. The county also is forming a community reopening task force consisting of public and private community leaders to develop a plan to reopen our economy based on facts and medical expertise. In doing so, we will be careful to ensure the safety of our community from further spread of COVID-19. We will listen to the experts' recommendations in all of the decisions that we're making. Your county government is working every day to protect our citizens and to ensure that all essential services are provided without any interruption. We are very proud of our citizens who have followed the governor's Safer at Home executive order. As we now move towards reopening our beaches, our parks, and our businesses, we need to use caution to ensure that we continue to contain the spread of COVID-19. It is now my pleasure to introduce our State Senator, Kathleen Passidomo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I echo your sentiments about how difficult these times are for our local residents and all of Florida. And I, too, share the thanks of the legislature and all elected officials for those on the front line who are helping us at risk for their own lives. Seemingly, our world has turned upside down overnight. Many of us are at home and unable to spend time with friends and loved ones. Some of you are working in essential jobs, law enforcement, health care, grocery stores, and you're all making sure we are safe, healthy, and have access to the things we need. Some of you have been laid off from your job or furloughed without a paycheck. Those of you who are parents are balancing working from home with child care and online learning. And some people are very sick. The measures we as a state have taken and will be taking in the future are important. They are important to slowing the spread of the virus and ensuring that we have the equipment and workers to care for the people in need. It is clear that the measures we have taken are working. I want to thank you for your understanding, for your patience and your commitment to the cause, for taking the personal responsibility to stay at home and to guard your neighbors and your friends. Now, I want to shift to what the government is doing to support you. Leaders at all levels of government, federal, state, and local, have accomplished much in a short period of time to try to help you during this difficult time. There are many programs on the federal level, like the stimulus package and the Small Business Owners Paycheck Protection Program. Hopefully this week, perhaps today, Congress will provide much-needed additional funding, particularly targeted to small businesses. As the majority leader in the Florida Senate, I will update you on what we're doing at the state level. I join briefings every day to discuss with my colleagues in the legislature and staff in the governor's office the concerns we are hearing from you, our constituents, and what we can do to address them. Here are just a few of the programs and resources that are available to Floridians. There are a number of dashboards to show you what is going on across the state in real time. One dashboard displays how many confirmed COVID-19 cases there are in Florida. You can even find out how many are in each county or by zip code. There's another dashboard tracking the capacity in hospitals across the state. It shows how many hospital beds are available and how many spots in ICUs are open. I'm happy to say that in Collier County, we are not near capacity, and that's a good thing. There are many programs in place to help workers who have lost their jobs during COVID-19. The Reemployment Assistance Program is where Floridians file claims for unemployment. The Florida Department of Economic Opportunity has received an overwhelming volume of applications for unemployment and requests for assistance. Over 1.5 million claims have been filed as of mid-March. Unfortunately, only 40,000 claimants have been paid. So the legislature is working directly with the governor and the Department of Economic Opportunity to improve the process. The agency has installed 72 new servers to increase the capacity of its online platforms. They've tapped more than 2,500 employees from other agencies to help process claims. They've even partnered with a local, not a local, but a federal bank to process checks because the state of Florida could only process 25,000 checks a day. Some of these little things that are important. There are local locations where you can pick up paper copies of the applications, and we've partnered with FedEx. You can drop off your application at a participating FedEx location, and they will mail it to Tallahassee at no cost to you. There are many programs available to help businesses that have lost revenue as a result of COVID-19. The Economic Injury Disaster Loans offers up to $2 million in economic assistance to help small businesses overcome the temporary loss of revenues resulting from COVID-19. The governor has recently announced that schools will be closed for the rest of the school year, and with schools shifting to online learning, the Florida Department of Education has released a set of resources to support families and schools through the transition. While it's critically important for us to remain at home to prevent the spread of COVID-19, we as a community, state, and as a nation are beginning to look to the future. Last week, Governor DeSantis announced a task force of business, government, and local leaders to explore how we as a state can reopen in a safe way. The task force convened yesterday and is expected to make recommendations by the end of the week. I know many businesses are anxious to reopen and families desire to return to normal, but we must adopt a safe, thoughtful, and data-driven approach that must include more and effective testing. And the governor made that point, he emphasized that point in the conference call yesterday. These programs and resources and much, much more you can find in many government websites. I've compiled them on my website, www.kathleenpassidomo.com. You can also sign up for my newsletter, which I send out with updates several times a week. Lastly, as you may know, the legislature ended the annual legislative session in March with the passage of the 2020-2021 budget for the state of Florida. We are monitoring closely the impacts of COVID-19 on our state budget and our state's future revenue. I'm proud to say that we were able to keep $4 billion in reserve and also allocated $300 million to the COVID crisis. We will be tapping into the state reserves, but we're one of the few states that has, we believe, enough money to get us through this crisis. It may be necessary, however, for us to revise next year's budget to reflect the full impact once it is known. I'm confident that our state's leadership is doing everything we can to prepare, respond, and support Floridians through this unprecedented global health pandemic and economic crisis. We can get through this if we work together. Take advantage of the resources available, but have patience as we work through the challenges. Abide by the CDC guidelines. Follow the governor's executive orders and other guidance issued from state and local governments. The success of these measures is dependent on you and everyone else in the state. Let's work together. Thank you.
Senator Passidomo, thank you very much for those comments, and thank you for your service to Collier County and to the state of Florida. At this time, I'd like to introduce our Department of Health Director, Stephanie Vick.
Thank you. The Department of Health continues to follow CDC guidelines and overall pushes those out to all counties within the state of Florida. There is particular emphasis on long-term care facilities and individuals that are age 65 and older, plus those individuals who happen to be immunocompromised for some reason or the other. I would like to echo Commissioner Saunders and Senator Passidomo in thanking our community for helping us to reach our objectives in keeping our community safe. We have done a great job so far, and I have every expectation that that will continue. One thing that we do need to remember as a community is that because we have reached perhaps the top of the mountain, we still have to get on the other side, and we have to continue to keep good health practices going. And so whenever we do start to open up, it may be incremental. There will be an expectation that we do some social distancing, and we depend upon you, our community members, to make sure that we are doing what we need to do as a community to stay healthy. I'd also like to thank our community partners. We've been meeting with our partners 3 days a week, almost since the beginning of this event, and it takes, to quote authors of the past, it takes a village not only to raise a child, but to keep our community healthy, and it has taken our partners on all levels to help us maintain our health. So, thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank you also for your enthusiasm and your dedication. The function of the Health Department has been very, very important during this COVID-19 crisis, and we certainly appreciate all of your efforts. At this time, I'd also like to introduce our Sheriff, Kevin Rambosk.
How are you? Thank you, everybody. You know, the mission of the Collier County Sheriff's Office is to protect the lives, property, and constitutional guarantees of all persons. And of course, trying to balance all of that during this time is difficult, but we are able to do that each and every day. As we've mentioned before, we began the planning process for this in mid-January. We were fortunate to get ahead of purchasing and policy and planning, creating an incident management team, which has worked together with the Health Department and Emergency Management in Collier County, and that has been very successful at this time. You know, these actions somewhat seem normal for us. We respond to emergencies each and every day. Obviously, this is a prolonged event, even longer than a hurricane. We are committed to do that throughout. To give a little update as to what we're observing out in the county, we see our traffic that is somewhat below off-season levels, which would be expected with our the compliance we're getting from our residents at staying home for the most part, except for those essential services. Our call volume is down about 15% last year versus this year. Again, under these circumstances, that is to be expected. We have been the attraction of individuals from other counties that have come into our community, but thanks to the great work of law enforcement and all of public safety, we've actually been able to identify many of them and effect arrests where they need to be made. We want to thank the businesses for their compliance early on. That's really important in stopping the spread of this. We also want to thank the Collier County Public School System, teachers, parents, guardians who have taken up the task of making sure our kids continue to learn, but it also gives them something to do rather than be out in the streets, and we think that is a positive thing. We've had a great outpouring of support from our community for all of those on the front lines of this event. We all appreciate that. We've got a very strong community support. I'd also like to thank Senator Passidomo for the support at the state level, Director Vick at the public health level, and absolutely Chairman Saunders and the Board of County Commission for all the support that you have provided to law enforcement and all of public safety to enable us to keep Collier County a safe place. So I would close by saying that we're moving forward and have provided a strong anti-crime plan for as we begin to roll out and open up the community. We want to let everybody know that we appreciate what you've been doing in staying in. However, if you choose and not to, and if you're intent on committing crime, our intent will be on putting you in jail. And I just want to make that perfectly clear. I also want to thank all the stakeholders in Collier County for keeping our county safe.
Sheriff Rambosk, early on, just a quick question. Early on, there was a significant increase in domestic violence. This goes back to late March, early April. Are you still seeing those trends, or is that sort of settled down at this point?
No, the domestic violence calls, not that we want to see any of them, are back to normal levels that we would see. We are seeing an increase in disturbances other than domestic violence, and that's based upon, I think, confined space, consumption of alcohol, and concern about finances.
Sheriff Rambosk, I want to thank you for all of your efforts and the efforts of your deputies. On the few times that I have been out, I see your deputies out and about and keeping us safe. And on behalf of all the citizens of Collier County, I want to thank you for those efforts and the efforts of the men and women in your department. At this point in time, are there any other comments from the members of the panel here before closing remarks?
Well, yeah, I
Senator
couldn't.
Passidomo?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. It's clear that we have a very special community here, and I couldn't be more proud of the people who live here, the members of our community who have taken personal responsibility to make sure that they are safe, they are following directives, and they're doing the right thing. And that's so important because I also couldn't be more proud of the first responders who are putting their lives on the line for the rest of us. And I think as you look at what's been happening in Southwest Florida, this has been a terrific collaboration. I've listened in on Director Vick's weekly thrice weekly calls, and it is just amazing how much they are doing for our community that, you know, people will never know. But I think in the long run, when this is over, and hopefully when this is over, we will do a look back and see what we did right, what we did wrong, how we can be prepared in the future. And I think we'll look back and say, you know, Collier County did it right. And I want to thank you, Commissioner, and the rest of the County Commission, the Marco Council, the Naples Council, and Bonita Springs for all that y'all have done and helped us as we move through this very, very difficult time. And of course, Sheriff Rambosk, your guys are just top notch. Thank you.
And Stephanie Vick, any closing comments?
I also want to point out that there have been a number of community interest groups that have figured into this initiative and have pointed out different ways of looking at initiatives to us that we have followed, and we so appreciate the community input. And I believe that every single entity within the county has had a hand in making our response probably one of the best in the state. So thank you.
And Sheriff Rambosk, any?
I think I would echo what Senator Passidomo has said. I think we have a very unique community. We've always had it. We've always worked together. The outcomes have always been very, very good. And this is no different. And if we continue to work together with all the help of all the stakeholders, we will have a successful outcome for Collier County. So I want to thank all of our residents and all of our businesses and all of those involved in first responding.
Thank you. I want to thank all of you for your participation in this briefing. I want to remind the public that we are still under the governor's Safer at Home executive order. We still have to practice social distancing. Those of you who may be over the age of 65 or have underlying health conditions, remember to wear your mask when you're out in public. Continue social distancing. It's going to be very important. We will have a county commission meeting on April 28th where we will have additional updates on the status of things in the county and a discussion on how we're going to reopen our beaches and our parks and our businesses. This will be after we get word from the governor on the governor's plan for reopening the state. So we look forward to that, and just remember, again, we're at the point where we're beginning to reopen, but we're not at the point where this COVID-19 has been conquered. That's going to be a long, hard fight for all of us. Thank you.